morning, ladies and gentlemen, members of the press. Thank you and welcome to the press conference for the 5th annual Autism Program, GT Bank's 5th annual Autism Program. This is the 5th year that we've done this. The journey started in 2009. Decided to advocate children and young adults with developmental disabilities, especially autism spectrum disorder. And we started, our main objective was to create awareness, societal awareness about it, in a bid to create acceptance and also create a space for society to accept people living with autism. And it's been an interesting journey for us. The second year we partnered with Blazing Trails International. Most of the faces you see on the high table are from Blazing Trails. It's been a fantastic partnership for us. We've had consultants come in, teach people about the practicalities of autism, and then have the one-on-one consultation with the children themselves as well, and then just get to meet everyone on the high table. My name is Onya Deadegite. Thank you.
GT Bank and the Republic of Nigeria for its efforts to get at something that has been very difficult in the States and around the world to address. It's very important that we acknowledge leadership where we find it, and certainly GT Bank represents that brand of leadership that's very important, as does the tenacity of the Republic of Nigeria. And I stand as an admirer and look forward to continuing our relationship.
I am currently a manager with the Open University in Alabama, USA. Native of Nigeria, of course. Very happy to be back home. I left 26 years ago, and I'm one of the original group members that come back every year with any information that I have to help to spread the awareness about autism. In my current job, I'm responsible for making sure that there's access and enforcement of the laws that exist to make sure people with disabilities are able to achieve to the maximum, to the optimum potential that God has given them. So I as to that. If I could do it in the US, I should be able to bring the skills back home, and that's what I'm trying to do. And the partnership with GT Bank has actually made us able to be able to do it. It's very commendable. Having done this for 5 years, the awareness is and actually continue to commend GT Bank being the trailblazers spearheading this initiative. Thank you very much.
As energetic and as diverse as ever. And I'd like to, at this time, pause. I have some team members that are sitting in the audience. I'd like to introduce them before we move on to the rest of the panel. If that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm a speech pathologist, recently retired, as you say, from Chicago Public Schools. I've worked with many autistic children, and I have learned to love this population of students and also to realize their potential. And I am so happy, so honored that Blazing Trails invited me to be here with you today.
I am pleased and excited to be back. I am one of the first, among the first, and I've been here all 5 years. I am Sonia Armstrong, mathematics and statistics professor. So you might be wondering, why am I with this program with math? But I do analysis, and I do the data analysis, and I also teach students who are going to be teaching math to people with special needs. And I am so excited to be part of Blazing Trails and grateful to GT for having us here, to be with such a diverse group. I've learned so much, and I continue to work and to see all the changes and the important things that are being done with autism. So I look forward to be here and to see most of you again later this week.
Hello, my name is Sylvia Redline. I'm a board certified assistant behavior analyst. I work in Pittsburgh and curriculum for the University of Pittsburgh Early Intervention Autism Specialization Program. I am incredibly pleased and so excited for this.
Good morning, my name is Dr. Akinde. I'm Director of Public Speech and Activity Center, First Center for Autism in Nigeria.
My name is Lasho Shoba. I work for the Communication and Trial Affairs.
Good morning, my name is Pascal Wall. I also work with the
Explained earlier, so we started the journey in 2009. And for GT Bank, it's one of our core pillars of corporate social responsibility. Falls on the and so we've, for us, it's about ensuring, like I said earlier, it's about ensuring societal awareness about autism. It's about creating a platform for research about autism in Nigeria. It's about creating a platform for schools, for inclusive schools for children and young adults with autism. And it's about ensuring that parents are aware. And then we also have an online certification. It's at a subsidized rate, and it's in collaboration with the University of Texas for practitioners who want to get certification. It's subsidized for this program specially. So that's about the program, and we can now have the question and answer session. So the floor is open. Any questions, please feel free to ask. Thank you.
My name is Shoba Obina. I think we should do it this way. Maybe you tell us where we are. This is the fifth time you're having this program. Tell us about what we have achieved and what you're bringing to the community.
Okay. Reps. We lobbied for that bill. Unfortunately, that bill has still not gone through, but we're still working on it. Then we had the consultation service. Last year we actually had consultation service. We did consultations for 70 children. So that's moving from in the past where we would have 20, 30, we've moved to 70. We strengthened this primarily because of the collaboration with the College of Medicine, which came on board in 2013. And this was for us, was also part of, we bring in the consultants, they come in from the States, is also part of transferring knowledge to Nigerians as well. And because there's obviously that need to also develop the skill set of the practitioners. You'd have the speech therapists who go and see people all year long. So we had 70 children. We met with 70 children last year. 1,200 participants. We're also going to set up an autism resource center to ensure all year continuity of everything that we're doing. So we meet with the children once a year. We want to ensure that their records which can be kept at College of Medicine are there. Ensure that we keep seeing fresh cases yearly. So it's to have an autism resource center that would, focus on, there's a research aspect of it, which the College of Medicine will handle, and would also have the consultants come in and they can see the children on an ongoing basis. We also have a community, an online community, which is the www.gtbank.com/autism, where you can ask a consultant question. So we have our own community of parents, of caregivers, of practitioners that we regularly engage and give them the latest. And that's actively supported by Blazing Trails. So that's been the journey so far. And then I'll let Dr. Anna as well just give a few tips on that.
Now, this was a good year for us. In partnership with the College of Medicine, we presented at the International Meeting for Autism Research, our collaborative project. And what we discovered, the battery has died. It says no battery. Yeah. So this year, our presentation was warmly received because other places are trying to do the community advocacy like we've already established. So what we're doing here is like one of the first of its kind anywhere.
Absolutely.
That we have the business section, We have private enterprise, we have school systems and private schools that we work in conjunction with to bring information, the latest information, to bring children to us so that we can help have diagnostics with the parents and with the College of Medicine. Now, what's so good last year, it was so good because all of us were working in unison. I've never seen something. At the end, I mean, I just wanted to scream because it was so wonderful. I didn't know how it would start off when we first we were first approached about working with the with other entities, but it was beautiful because we're able to access the local resources, and that's what's important. That we come in and they are here, that everybody works together for one cause.
Absolutely.
And you don't find that everywhere.
Many families have realized what it is to have a child with autism. They've been able to, even through the conference and the literature they've gotten at the conference, self-diagnose their children. They've gone to the hospital and the doctors have said, go home. And this is a training platform. What we have also seen is centers springing up in other parts of the country. We have Blazing Heart Autism Center in Port Harcourt doing great work with families in Port Harcourt. We have another center in Warri doing well because they started out with this conference. And the exposure that some families that we have taken up as part of our project in partnership with GTB is that indigent families that never thought their child would get therapy have been able to receive some form of therapy. And I'll give a story of a boy called Ekene, whose mother came to us. We met at the autism conference in, I think it was 2011. And she said to me, Mrs. Akonde, Patrick's is expensive. I cannot come to Patrick's. But I have a son, and this is what my son is going through. So I said, okay, after the conference, let's sit down and see what we can do. We approached GTB to support part of that project. And they did. Today, that boy is in school, is in mainstream school. Yes, he's not in age-appropriate classroom, but he's competing with children that are typical. Children who don't have autism. And the beauty is that even at that level, he's coming first in maths. I mean, what else could we say? This conference is something that has put a lot of families in the place of dismay into a place of hope. Thank you.
With cultural issues and how to address superstitions.
People of color in America. You have a large population of African Americans and people from Latinos, Hispanic populations that still hold those belief systems. So Nigeria is not by itself. When people come to you and say, well, I think somebody put some voodoo on this child, and that's why he acts that way. In fact, just recently, I have a child whose mother told me that it's a family hex on this child, and she wouldn't have schizophrenia if it weren't for having a family hex on her. So it's not unusual, and most of us are used to dealing in these populations. Even Dr. Larry is used to dealing with people that hold these belief systems. So it's not unusual for us to hear that.
How would you know? I want to address it. How would you tackle these issues? Interventions-wise, how are we going to tackle these issues? We'll go to maybe in places where they're not that literate, maybe in the villages, and we have the children with autism. How are you going to tackle these issues?
Well, this is part of the reason we're having the conference, to bring awareness. Each one tell one. And last year, I presented data information that we had collected to show that none of the taboos that were mentioned were self-evident. This year, I continue to talk about what has been found to be helpful, what they have found to have been suspected of causes, and how we can demystify all of these, because autism is in every country, every social work, every ethnic groups, every educational group, and therefore all of these groups could not have family members putting X's on them or anything like that. So those are the ways we're trying to do that.
It's a basic diagnostic tool that everybody, that's very accessible to parents. And we have, over the years, made sure people have the M-chat to the extent that we have translated into the major Nigerian languages, Hausa, Yoruba, and Igbo, so that people in the villages will be able to look at this, read it, and say, what's going on? You go through the steps and say, this is probably autism as opposed to some kind of supernatural phenomenon that is not something that they can put their hands on. So that's the way we spread the knowledge. With knowledge comes power. And so, so we're trying as much as possible to get it to the hands of the village.
I spend much of my life talking with churches and visiting various dioceses in the United States, talking to priests, talking to ministers about what autism is and what it isn't, about how to get the faith-based community to respond. Part of the reason that I do this is that parents of children with autism sometimes get very scared. People make comments, make fun. One Christian community, for example, decided to do a prayer service with a child, laying hands on the child to remove the evil spirits. Unfortunately, what occurred was the child died because they suffocated the child. So part of the mission that I have basically done, I was in Cameroon earlier in the week speaking with the Archbishop in that community in Bamenda, just about these types of notions, how to educate the clergy so that they can be pastoral, so that they can be caring, so that they can understand what the disorder is, to include everyone in the church and not to exclude anyone. God made it for everyone, not just for the select few.
I also represent an initiative with the Princeton Theological Seminary and the Riverside Church out of New York, that is attempting to pull together those various segments of the faith community where we can bring dialogue for the leadership of those communities under the guise of science and technology, yes, but also under the guise of spiritual understanding of the tools and skills necessary to deal with issues as related to their congregations. Most of the time, people coming through a theological education or another avenue to a leadership position in the faith community is not confronted with the true skills and tools necessary to drive solutions at the community level. So the partnership in technology and social change between Princeton Theological Seminary and the Riverside Church out of New York, the Mission for Social Justice, is intended to do just that, sir. And under the vision of GT Bank and Trailblazers, we're having the opportunity to really bring that to the ground level with what we see here, but also what we see across the world. In our relationships in South Africa and Zimbabwe, for instance, we find, and America, we find a very similar situation.
In a health center, it's a really small place, and it was really refreshing to find families. They told them, we're coming out, you know, it's a monthly engagement where you go out, you see the physiotherapist, and we saw a lot of families, not just with children that had autism, but with all different forms of developmental disabilities. And these are really, really, you know, not educated people in any way, shape, or form. So what the awareness does is that it opens your eyes to saying, okay, so my neighbor also has this. You know, okay, so I know somebody else down the road who has this. Even if you feel it's a spiritual problem, then at least you can still see some sort of commonality. And then we talk to you about what is happening in the rest of the world. It's not just you. It's not just because you're poor. It's not because you're rich. You know, it's just, it happens to everyone, you know. So it was amazing seeing those families come, and the engagement was, of course, it was in Yoruba. It was really, really powerful. And they came out, they all had, you know, you could tell that they all knew each other, so, you know, and the children couldn't talk, the children were, you know, to the best of their ability, were doing different things, but the mothers were talking, the mothers were engaging, and they were hugging their children, showing affection to their children, teaching them to love their children, irrespective. And so that's what the awareness does, and that's the reason we're also trying to take this to the grassroots, you know, because when you take this to the grassroots and you tell them, it's everywhere. You know, it's not just you, and then, you know, and that sort of transforms that and makes people, you know, less, you know, defensive about it and more open to dealing with their problems.
And there is a lot of work being done for autism and developmental disorders. I think we tend to also forget, we're talking now about the spiritual issues in autism. we sometimes tend to forget that there possibly, most probably, there is also something very spiritual about people with autism. And it is, I suppose, because it's very difficult for us as well to understand them, to have that empathy. We're talking about their lack of empathy, their lack of understanding feelings. But the reason why we need that much of an input and resources and training is because we, as human beings, are not the most empathic and friendly people towards people who are different. And what I can say is something I share with lots of parents or families, friends, or professionals who are dealing with developmental disorders and autism, is how much people with autism and developmental disorders can actually transform our lives. I can say for myself that I'm so much of a better person because of my dealings with autism for more than 27 years. Because I had to literally learn, like many of us, to find a way of understanding, appreciating, and accepting this group of people, these individuals. So that is another side of autism we also need to look into, and we also need to look more into our lack of understanding and friendliness.
Because autism is looked at as, like Dr. Larry said, a spiritual problem. What we've done in Nigeria today is to introduce the parents that have gone through it. We take them to the rural areas. They talk about their experiences with their child. So the people in the villages and the people around will understand that it is not about them. Another way we've been able to tackle that is through video. You know, films that is a big thing in Nigeria of today. So we use video. We did like a short documentary or a short film on a child with autism and how it was tackled by the parents, and we showed it to them in this part of the world. I mean, we have a lot of people that know about and we have a lot of expertise in the south. In the north, a lot of them are at home. They're in their houses. They don't even have the courage to bring them out into the community. So what we do is we invite the parents to a forum by other partners, not necessarily Patrick Speaker, there are many other people working in the field of autism. They show the film to the families, they talk about it, they allow the parents to ask questions, and with the questions as being answered, they take it back into their home to try to see what they can do with their children. And we leave an open communication channel where they can give us feedback. Oh, I'm seeing so and so, I don't understand it. We put a parent through in that area to say, okay, let me help you in that regard, and then the communication keeps flowing, and people in the rural area are beginning to understand what it is. It's just that autism is an English word, and they've been telling us to give it a Nigerian word, and we just cannot find the word. Thank you.
Newspaper. Yes, I have two questions. First is maybe to Dr. Konde or to the House. In this 50-year journey, I mean, the journey so far, okay, 4 years back, what would you say are some of the observations you made in terms of challenges? Are parents withdrawn? Are these children locked up? Are they presented early? Some developmental disorders, most times, because they are presented early, the challenge becomes so much. What is our experience like in Nigeria? You have tackled the issue of the myths behind maybe spiritual attack or not spiritual attack. What has been the case? Is it that of poverty, ignorance, late presentation, or what? What are the problems? That is the first question. Second one is, in Nigeria or in Africa, we like doing our own thing. We do things in African way. Even you see the learned, at the end of the day, they will go and take native medicine and take care of their health problem. Despite the fact they are coming from the Western culture, they still believe in the local way of doing things or their traditional way of doing things. Now, these people, based on your experience so far, your observation, do you see them managing this disorder in a traditional way, maybe taking them to native homes, and maybe because they have attached spiritual they have a spiritual attachment to it. Do you notice such a thing? So what are your experiences so that we'll further educate parents on how to go about it? Because I know sometimes when people have hypertension, they have stroke, they will go to native doctors and they are treating it there. So what are the experiences? What are your experiences like?
The child with autism, that's why I'm here. That's what gave me the certificate to be able to sit here. And yes, in the area of awareness, we found that a lot of families have been managing their children in the regular school. When they've been pushing the child, I want my child in a regular school system with no support and with the teachers not knowing what to do. They push the child until the child gets to the age of 10. And then they come to the center to say, my child has, they won't call it autism, they'll just tell you some of the signs. And then you just know that the child has been managed along the line. So typically what we see in this part of the world is a late onset. That's why we keep screaming at every opportunity for them to bring the children early. If we see the child at 2, what we would have been able to gain in the years that the child has been at home or in regular school would have been beautiful, rather than getting them at age 10. At age 10, we have to start from the beginning, and most of the time what we find is that by that time the child is already set in their ways, and many people that know what autism is know that they learn by example, imitation, and what they have learned that is wrong, you have to unlearn it before you now teach the right skills, and that is a heartbreaking experience for me, because I see the children really, really struggled through some of these things. And for the native doctor, and that's why, as Dr. Larry said, the church is the biggest way to eradicate that. You cannot, by this time, say completely that you will be able to eradicate that, because people will always, I will give an example of a parent that came to me. He said to me, he said, Mrs. Akonde, I can't believe that you have such a center in Nigeria. You know what happened to me? After my wife told me my son has autism, the boy was having almost 25 seizures in one day. He didn't know what to do. They had taken all the medication that was necessary. He said to me, I had to take him without my wife's knowledge to a medicine man to try to figure out what is going on here. That is what we see here. And that is why this conference is such a beauty. I encourage anybody, anywhere, everywhere to say, please come for this conference. You will learn, if there's nothing you learn, you will learn one thing or the other that will help you in your own community. I mean, we talk about traveling regularly. There are times when I travel and at the airport I see a family struggling with a boy with autism. Probably that boy had not even been prepared, had not been told that you're going to travel, you're going to be on an airplane, told what to do. So I go to the mother, what are your challenges? Tell me, I am a mother also, and I've been through what you've been through. Can you please tell me how I can help you while you're on the plane? So I say, if you need to rest, please call on me to come and sit with your son while you rest. That is why we're all here. That is why we're a community that can hold each other's hands. And that's the best thing that this conference has done. It has brought all of us together. We are in a world where autism is still unexplained, even in the developed world. They still don't know what it is. So we have to deal with what we see at each stage, and with limited resources. I mean, how many specialists in the field of autism do we have now? How many did we have when my son was 2? And you can imagine the disparity. It's growing. We are thankful for the growth and the awareness that GT Bank has been able to project. I mean, they believed in our project before starting up with Patrick, before deciding. They were the first people to hold the hands of autism to say, okay, let us help you in setting up a center in Nigeria. And I tell you, that center has helped so many families, and many, many more families are coming up with different parents forum here, parents this one there. Many people are coming back because GTB is making noise about autism. Many specialists that are in the US that are Nigerians, they want to come back and say, okay, how can we help in this field? And that's what this conference has done. Thank you.
My name is Mojide Gano. I'm a blogger. First of all, I'd like to commend GT Bank and Trailblazers for
Blazing Trails.
Blazing Trails for this innovation. I think it's an amazing thing, because just being here, I've learned one or two things about autism. That being said, I would like to ask, what is I know it's, like she said, it's the project is being run on limited resources, and all that. But against that backdrop, what is the extent of penetration and publicity that's been done so far? Because I understand that this conference is being held in Lagos. Do people outside Lagos, are they very aware of this conference? Because I believe if the right kind of publicity is done, there will be more participation because a lot of people are going through these things. I have just been here, I'm reconciling and remembering that okay, I think this might be the problem with one or two children. I know. Then secondly, in terms of having centers and all that, what is the? I don't know if the center already available in Lagos. I don't know if it's like a GTB thing or a private thing. Are there plans to have centers outside Nigeria, apart from the Warri and Port Harcourt you mentioned? Because Nigeria has 36 states, and you can only get this and that. Then the third question, I don't know if this is the right environment, but it's about autism as well. Is it possible if a child, if it is discovered early that the child has autism, is it possible for that child to actually live a normal life after being nurtured for a while? Yes. Thank you very much.
We last year we had 40% people coming from outside of Lagos. We also will be live streaming because we're aware that obviously that we're trying to reach as many people as possible and just sitting in Lagos. But also, like I mentioned earlier, part of what we're doing with the grassroots, going to different health centers, and the plan is we're going to do it nationwide, is to go for an immunization days, 9 months upwards, educate mothers, give them the NCHAT. Because from 9 months you might start to see the signs, no earlier than that. So go to all the health centers, tell them, and obviously then from next year tell them about the conference, and but there's so much you can never really do about a conference, but we'll always ensure that we live stream and that people can watch from anywhere in the world.
Certain when someone is diagnosed, where they would fall on that spectrum. So it's important, the earliest we receive a diagnosis, that we start this intensive therapy so that we can help them live a more meaningful life. Now, there are some cases where, as she mentioned, there are some signs early. If we could get people to bring children in, here in Nigeria, we don't have the early, well baby checks. So during the vaccination periods, if children were to come during the times where they get their vaccinations, and we ask these developmental questions from the modified checklist for autism in toddlers, then maybe we can begin to identify who might be a candidate for further assessments. Now, in the States, among people of color, we don't receive the early diagnosis. The average black child in America is diagnosed at 5 or older. And I think that's about the same here in Nigeria. They get the diagnosis late. Yes. And so the earlier we start with the intensive therapy, we can help the child bridge some of these gaps, the communication gaps and the social gaps, which is how they really diagnose autism. It's not a blood test yet. Not yet. We're working on it. And thank you.
I don't know if Dr. Akonde would like to share her.
And she said to me, she sent me a picture of my daughter, because she's my daughter. She said to me, Mrs. Akonde, your daughter is moving to secondary school next year. And I said to her, I'm in tears right now. That's all I can say. That's telling you that she came to us with a very strong case. No speech at all, no sign. She did not have any sign of speech. And her first word was a sentence, bat the ball. And for 2 months after she said that word, she didn't say anything again. And she grew from that into a lovely little girl that went into the regular school setting. I told the mom, don't give support in the regular school. The reason why I said that was because I knew she had enough skills to be able to cope in the regular school system. So we put her in no support, and she scaled through. She had challenges. At every point of her challenges, we would go in. And and she did very, very well in secondary school. She was actually in the same school as my son, who was diagnosed with autism and is now going into university. He made 100% in SAT marks. So those are signs to tell you that these children
can do well. All you need to do is, I started early because as you can see, I talk a lot. And I will not stop telling everybody, my son is not talking, my son is not talking, my son, until I got the help that I needed to tell me that this is it. And immediately I got that autism. I said, tell me what do I need to do? And I went straight headlong into it. And when I saw that the progress of my son was quite alarming, what actually even opened his mind up is the fact that I introduced music to him. He was playing an instrument, and the pathway that was blocked became clear as day. And that helped him to be able to cope. He still has challenges with social skills, but it doesn't mean that he will not be able to function. If you see him, you will know that he has any sign of autism, and he's doing very well. I'm a proud mother, and I would say that I'm blessed. And you need to know, if you've seen one child with autism, you've only seen that one child. They have different challenges, and they all come with their strength. So that strength is what we need to look at. Also, I want to address the talk about, are there many more sectors? Let me say, if you don't have high blood pressure, you won't really understand the people that go through high blood pressure, what it entails. What we are seeing is that mothers that have decided not to keep quiet have been opening centers. So usually in the world of autism, I'm sure in the US and in the UK they know that too, it's the mothers that push to say, this thing, we need help, that keep crying out, that we need help, we need support, It's the mothers that really push. GT Bank wouldn't know anything about autism if I didn't approach them to say, okay, I want to start up a center. And I would commend them because they took up the baton and they ran with it. See where we are today. It blows me away, it blows my mind. Thank you, GT Bank.
A school, and she has an extremely strong parent group that was able to advocate for insurance to pass a legislative bill to get insurance coverage, because the care for taking care of an autistic child is extremely valuable and extremely expensive, and they were able, through parental cooperation and hard work, to get legislation passed so that insurance will cover it. So you need that parent support and parent input.
Not someone who can change over the course of time. Clearly, what Mrs. Akandi has said and others have said, if you start intervention early enough, it's very important that you can work with this lifelong disorder. It is a lifelong disorder. The earlier that you're able to work with communication, autism, for example, it's an information processing disorder. One takes in information, one has to understand what's being asked, one comes back out with a response. This process takes time. I've worked with children since they were very young. I may not have had children that have talked until age 9 years. The language begins slowly then, but because they've learned all of what's happened before then, as they grow older, it takes a longer period of time. They eventually become very functional, can do very many things, even go to university in some cases, even when language starts that late. But as Mrs. Akami said, every child's different. Every child with autism can vary, but over the course of time, one can make very remarkable progress and be seemingly typical.
It's been advocates. The medical community needs to be educated too. There's a lot of research that says that even the medical community, they are not aware of the signs. So if I go to a doctor and a child, I think there's something wrong with my child, and the doctor is telling me, oh, it's okay. You outgrow it. Then I tend to believe the doctor if the doctor doesn't know what's going on. So the medical community still needs to be involved in the educational process as well as nurses and medical professionals.
Yeah, it's been the psychology, it's a diagnosis. So you have to be observed. And so if the person doing the diagnosing doesn't observe the child, you can't make an appropriate designation as to what the child's problem might be. And so, so that the diagnosis has been driven by the psychology departments, or people who are psychologists or social scientists.
Thank you. Are there any further questions?
I would like to comment. The earlier you start the treatment, the autism treatment, what happens, the brain, we call it, there's a lot of plasticity in the brain, like the brain can still change a lot. Consequently, the earlier you start, before the age of 3 or 2, many intellectual, cognitive problems can still change. The child can learn about mood regulation, the child can learn a lot more about compassion and regulation of emotions. You can also prevent total family breakups and all sorts of forensic problems. So there's a lot more to promoting the social skills, and it's also promoting intellectual development, self-esteem, confidence, mood, etc. You do a whole lot more in one go by just only one intervention sometimes when the child is a lot younger.
Collaboration with GTB and Blazing Trail. In the past 2 years, even in clinics now, you see people coming in. There was a time I had diagnosed a child at the age of 2. I had to commend the parents, one, saying before there was no much awareness in Nigeria. Though the parents are educated, of course, you need to see the man almost in tears. He was shattered, having had the diagnosis, and that was an opportunity in which I invited him for this program, and I said, for now, we're a bit limited in our resources, but this is bringing up issues in which parents, like in the department now, we started a support group, and you need to hear parents talking, hearing them how, talking about even sexual needs of their children, how do they take them through schools, what are they supposed to do, and they are forming a network in which they are being bound together, and we're seeing more of neurodevelopmental disorders being diagnosed just because of this awareness. Nobody would know whether this is autism or whatever, but people are coming out, and it's a good experience around, and it's not only in Lagos, but you feel other people are asked. You see them coming from all over. Last year we saw someone come all the way from Kaduna. We see people coming, and it's raising an awareness that even mothers who have kept their children with their mothers in the villages are bringing them out. So to demystify the cultural bias and everything, it comes with awareness and advocacy. And you're seeing people coming out just because they've heard that this thing, even though not curable, but can be managed. Thank you.
Sajay, I've always protected the GT branch, sorry. I have just a question about management. This is a very good initiative, highly commendable. But what are the plans to take it further? I mean, I'm sure there are kids having opportunity in jobs in Kaduna, Abuja. What are the plans in the future to take it further at Lagos? Thank you.
You said to the national assembly. Can you tell us more about the name of the bill, what the bill stands to achieve? And again, I also want to know the latest innovations in management of autism.
The different bits, not just the conferences, the consultation, have had any sort of, contact with us all year long. Sometimes we receive emails, we refer people to, there's a part of the brochure where we publish all the resources we have on autism in Nigeria. Going to your first question, for now, what the plan to do, like I said earlier, is to have a resource center in Nigeria for where we can have research, which is why I explained the collaboration with the College of Medicine, and she spoke from College of Medicine, and that's what she was explaining to you, things they started saying following the collaboration. And so when we have the resource center, we can then meet with these children all year long, and we'll also have research, we can have more data, we can just start to expand our scope on autism, as well as I mentioned the grassroots engagement, which we want to do on a monthly basis. We'll also, like Ms. Akonde had said, show the parents the videos and give them the chats to help them where they can sort of self-diagnose on their own. Regarding the bill, so the bill was actually had come up on the House. We didn't write the bill, and the bill was to actually have governments create a resource center for autism at the government level. So that was primarily the focus of the bill, where we're going to have like a national resource center, and where you can then have that as a common ground. Everyone can sort of feed through that system. Government would have consultants, would have research, and so that was the focus of the bill primarily. Thank you.
Oh, you mean the movie that?
Yes.
That is an excellent teaching tool. I use that teaching tool in my class at University of Texas at Arlington, and because people are curious, even in the United States, about autism, And then they're curious about how other nations deal with the autism onset, you know. And it's a really good. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow and Wednesday, and at the consultations at the College of Medicine Sickle Cell Anemia Center, which is right across from the gate, as you of Luz.
So thank you very much, and then like we all said, we're all very excited. We look forward to seeing you all at the conference. Invite someone you know, let them register, please. And obviously, it's going to be shown online, so you can just log into gtbank.com/autism, and then you can watch it online from wherever you are. Thank you very much. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
This is my 5th year in Nigeria, and I was part of the original team that came with the group. When the team was organized by Blazing Trail, they wanted people, a very diverse group, both with skills and other ethnic diversity, to be part of it, and I have been able to come every year. There are 3 of us who have still been in the first team or continue to be here.